What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Whiskey Sour Libations and Conversations. I'm your girl, Dom. And this week's episode is not sponsored by Uncle Nearest. And y'all know what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep saying what I'm drinking every week until I get a whiskey sponsor. I'm drinking an Irish coffee this morning. Your girl is, I needed the coffee to boost, and I needed the alcohol to mellow me out this morning. I'm on 10. Hold on. All right, we have such a special guest with us this week, a world-renowned photographer. He is a Nobel Peace Prize winner. You have seen him shoot covers of Vogue, Essence, everything. And guess what? He just so happened to be from St. Louis, y'all. Welcome, Reggie Cunningham, a.k.a. Kid Noble, to the stage.
Hey. We in the building. What's good?
Look, you like that intro though? I just put all these extra accolades because it's coming.
I mean, maybe that Nobel Prize is coming at some point. We'll see.
Listen, look, because you already got the Vogue under your belt for real.
Yeah. We collecting them like the Infinity Stones.
Listen. Hold on. Before we get into the mess, let's just stay here for a second about this Vogue cover. Shout out to Edward Enninful for first of all just being black, just black. He is the editor-in-chief of British Vogue, and you got the luxury, the honor to not only shoot, but you got to shoot your wife.
Yes.
Cover.
Yeah.
British Vogue. Tell
me. Well, I mean, definitely shout out to Edward Enninful. He is a visionary, just an amazing person, so kind and loving of our people. And he's been doing amazing things over at Vogue UK. So yeah, the September issue was coming up, and they were covering, activists and stuff like that from all over the world. And so they contacted my wife, Brittany, and asked her would she be willing to be a part of it. And of course she was like, yes, like this is Vogue. You want to put me in Vogue? Like, yeah. And so this was in the height of the first summer of COVID. And initially they were going to hire a photographer to come and take pictures. And Brittany contacted them and was like, well, my husband's a photographer. And they said, well, send us his work. And so sent over some work samples, and they were like, oh, absolutely. Like, this is perfect. And in my mind, I'm like, well, all the pictures that the world see of Brittany, I took them anyway. So, like chances are the picture that's, on their board when they're planning is a picture I took. So,
right.
And so they were like, absolutely. We set up a day. She wore Hanifa. If you're familiar with that designer, she wore Hanifa, and we went over to Rock Creek Park and shot some photos for a few hours. There's actually 2 different looks she did that we submitted, and they went with the one. And what was crazy was we took the pictures, and then it was such a quick turnaround that literally that evening I sent them the proofs. Like I sat in the car and paired through all of the photos, paired them down to maybe like a couple hundred, well, not even a couple hundred, maybe like 150 photos, and sent them those proofs, and they chose one. And in a few days, I that is the longest I've ever spent editing a photo. Was editing that photo, and I sent it over to them. And about a month later, we got a call from Mr. Enninful. They wanted to put her as one of the cover photos. And we were just
about to cry as you're telling me this story. It's just so much black joy.
Listen,
yes,
it's like we had no clue that they, we was gonna end up on the cover. We just thought like, oh, we're gonna be up in British Vogue. Like we'd be sitting around the house because that was early COVID, so you ain't do nothing but sit around the house. We'd be sitting around the house, and I'd be like, babe, you gonna be in British Vogue, and she'd be like, babe, you're gonna be in British Vogue. And then, all of a sudden we're gonna be on the cover. And we found that out maybe a week before the cover was released.
Wow.
Yeah. And so then it came out, and yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to walk into a bookstore or walk you walk through the airport, you stop in the little Hudson News, and you see a magazine, and you're like, yo, that's my work,
Yeah.
in that magazine. It's crazy. So that's how it went down. And our hometown paper, the St. Louis American, the hometown Black paper, did
The only paper
something
that
on.
matters.
Yeah, right. Especially given as of late.
Woo,
Um,
the
but
mess.
yeah, they interviewed me about it, and it's been dope.
Oh my gosh. I'm just so honored and proud to even know you. Like we met in real life, y'all, like literally a week ago in DC.
Yeah.
And funny enough, St. Louis so small. Reggie went to school with my big sister. Everybody goes to school with Janelle. Everybody always thinks that
Yeah.
everybody knows me, but everybody knows Janelle. And
Yeah.
so when I was
I
saying,
know Janelle is my best friend. Yeah.
look, Janelle, when I was telling her, I was like, oh, my friend Kid Noble wants to take some shots. I don't know if we'll have the time. And she's like, well, hold on. Kid Noble, that boy name is Reginald Cunningham. And I was like, how you know him? She's like, he went to Metro. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when I kept saying, because we know each other from social media.
Yeah.
So I was saying your user handle, and she's like, stop calling him Kid Noble. His name is Reggie. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. and we had the honor of getting some shots taken by you that I'm about to drop as well. So
in the freezing cold. It was cold.
No, when I tell y'all, it was so cold. It was, and I think mainly it was the wind. Had it just been cold, it was fine. But it was that wind that was getting us. And when I tell you, I'm like, my lashes about to blow off. I'm up here shivering like a crackhead. Like it was, but it was dope. It was such a good time. So I'm happy that we even got to like meet in person. Because I told I have a lot of friends that live in DC, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be there. I don't know if I'm gonna get to see you, but I'm letting you know, like, these are the plans. If something works, great. If not, no big deal. I'll be back when it's warm. But also, you did something else great. This T-shirt.
Yeah, that's me. That's me too.
I got gifted this T-shirt, pure Black nutritional facts.
Yeah.
My aunt sent me this on a whim like some years ago. Like this, listen. And so when you brought it up the other day, I was like, wait a second. I know that shirt. I love that shirt.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. That's all me. That was I think I first dropped that shirt in, I want to say 2015.
Yeah, maybe.
I think I dropped it in 2015. In like August of 2015, I think is when I dropped it. Yeah.
Because I've had this shirt for a minute, and I'm like, wait a second, is my shirt that old? I don't know. But it's just so funny, and it's funny when I wear it in public because Dwight's.
Yeah.
They always stop and they're like, huh, what? I'm like, it's blackness. It just don't
pertain to you. Right. It's like Will Smith smacking Chris Rock. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
It got nothing to do with you at all. So, I mean, I love it. I love the Black excellence that you are giving to the world. And I'm just happy. I'm just happy to know and align myself with greatness and great people and being able to really like walk in that. And I always see things that say that your friends should reflect where you want to go and who you want to be, and all of that is coming together. And it's really, I'm not gonna cry. I think I'm about to be ovulating soon. Dog, it's crazy. So I like how my life is looking and where it's going. I feel like it is coming it's coming to the both of us, and knowing even your backstory and having similar backstories, having to work in retail to pay bills and all of that. And I'm not ashamed of that. And I tell people, I said those were some of the best experiences of my life, and I'm amazing lifelong friends from that journey. So here we are.
Yeah, it keeps you humble because like yeah, I shot a Vogue cover, but then like the next day I had to go to work at Apple. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like,
like
it keeps you humble for real. And I mean, you around good people because I mean another connection is I went to high school with Tahir. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah, yeah.
So it's you around good people. You're around good folks.
I try. I just Tahir is amazing. Tahir has ultimately like really, really helped me structure what I want to do, and it has just been an inspiration as well
Right.
to my career. And I've made amazing, amazing friends. Like the one of the projects we did yesterday together um, with a friend that I know pretty much through him. So some crazy is coming, y'all. I acted a fool in a good way for entertainment purposes. And today is day 2 of that mess. So
Word.
yeah, I that's all I got. But speaking of
Well, we looking forward to seeing whatever it is.
yes, I can't wait to share with y'all. It is such a great, funny project for my friend's show. And yeah, but we got a lot of mess to cover. And I learned through Twitter that you are a fan of Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
And I am also a huge fan of Married at First Sight. I started watching the show when the world was introduced to Chris and Paige from
Uh,
the beginning of COVID, pretty much. Married at First Sight Atlanta.
mhm.
And now we are on Married at First Sight Boston. There's been a couple of seasons in between the two, but I want to talk about the mess that's happening in Boston. I do. From
Yeah.
the very first episode, when we meet who is who, but we just knew from the intros and from the things people were saying that this was going to be a shit show.
Yeah.
I would like to hear your take about the first couple of episodes, and then we'll break down the couples. And to the people watching, I just want to explain what Married at First Sight is. It is literally what it says. It is Married at First Sight. You go through this strenuous interview process, application process. I got sent the application from a friend because they
Oh,
wrote
somebody sent it to you?
somebody sent me the application for San Diego. So I saw what the requirements were, the questions that they asked, all of that. So, which really had me baffled going into this season, knowing the questions that they ask and what they look for. Like one of the questions is that you have to have a job. So how we get a dude that doesn't have a job? I want us to tell everybody that that is literally what it is. It's that simple. It is Married at First Sight. And Married at First Sight, the concept is for them to match you with somebody based on the questions, the interviews that they would see fit for you. There are 3 experts. There is a pastor, a relationship sex
Pastor
therapist,
Cal.
Pastor Cal, Dr. Pepper, who is a relationship therapist, and Dr. Viviana,
Dr. Viviana.
who is a sexpert, we would say. So, Mr. Kid Noble, how are you this season with Married at First Sight?
Oh boy. Well, of course I am fully caught up on Married at First Sight. The first uh couple episodes, you're introduced to who might be on the show, and you kind of get a sense of like who each person is, how they live, because there's a time when the experts go and they like tour the people's homes and where they live, and usually there's always one that you're like, yeah, they're gonna make it on the show, and there's always one that's like, you're like, they're gonna be a problem. You know what I mean? Like I don't know about them. For instance, we all knew during the interview process that Chris was going to be something else in
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We all knew that. And so I think that's why, like a couple seasons ago, when during that season, everybody was upset that they even put Paige in that situation
Right.
because it's like we all saw it coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this year, we meet all these different characters, and to be honest, the one that ended up being the biggest problem, who they're no longer, I guess, on the show at this point because they decided to go ahead and separate. I didn't see her being that big of an issue in the beginning. Elijah Wan, I figured, was probably going to have some bumps in the road along the way because of just how he was presenting.
Yeah.
And then everybody else, it was kind of like, I don't know, we'll see, And then they get married, the lead up to the marriage, they're talking about marriage, and you see how they even view the institution of marriage. And that kind
Right.
of gives you a clue as to maybe how
Yeah.
their relationship is going to go,
Right.
based on how they view it. Do they view it as an equitable partnership, or do they view it as I'm finally getting somebody that can do all these things for me, right?
Right.
Um, you see the wedding, and you see them first interacting with each other, and you're like, oh, that gives you another sense of maybe how this is going to go. And then they go on their honeymoon, and you get to see them outside of wedding, interacting with themselves and other
Right.
couples. And one of the things they always say when you get into a relationship with somebody is like, I knew I could be with this person because we could travel together.
Right. Right.
Because traveling with someone else that's a test, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So even if it is a honeymoon, like, it's a test, right? And if you can't travel with somebody, then you might not could live with them. And so you kind of get a sense of that, and then they go back home, they move into an apartment, and they get back to like everyday life. So it's been real interesting to kind of see the couples play out this year, and I know we'll go through kind of each one of them. So
So let's start with Alyssa and Chris. Saying that at the beginning that you didn't feel like Alyssa would be a problem. Out the gate, I knew she was going to be a problem.
well, I
This,
didn't think she was going to be as like that, like how she ended up. I didn't think it was going to be
yeah.
like that.
Um, Alyssa and Chris, based on the requirements that she stated that she wanted in a partner when she
Mhm.
was speaking to the other women, and we knew that they paired her with Chris. I said, she gonna hate his teeth. She gonna hate his
Mhm.
look. Everything that she wanted that was superficial, aesthetic wise, I said she's going to hate. Now, Chris could always get his teeth bleached and fixed. He could always lose the weight. But when I think about things like that, I'm like, this is going to be a personality thing for her. She will never be able
Mhm.
to look past that to see who he is because and understand why she got paired with him.
Mhm.
And to the people watching, I don't know if everybody watches Married at First Sight. It is the best show I feel like the world is not watching. A lot of people still don't know about the show. It is literally the best show that the world is not watching. And for me, I felt like out the gate, they were going to be mismatched. I don't know, just
Mhm.
like I said, based on what I was hearing her say, and then what he was saying that he kind of wanted in a partner, I was like, okay, they have more money this season. They're going to come with the mess. And I, out the gate, knew that she was going to hate life as we
Mhm.
knew it. And sure enough, like you said, I didn't think it would be that bad, but I knew she would be a mess just on
Mhm.
his looks alone. But when I tell you, I encourage everybody to go and watch the first 3 or 4 episodes because they drag it out. And when I tell you, I was surprised that based on her, when she saw him, she kind of hesitated a little bit walking
Mhm.
down the aisle. His
Yeah.
friends peeped that. His friends
Yeah.
peeped. Then just the whole interaction at after when they met and they started speaking, she kept saying his friends said, oh, that he was.
Mm-hmm.
I never got that from his friends. I
Yeah,
never.
I think that I think maybe the cameras played that up a little bit because they
Mhm.
can cut things a certain way to make it look
Yeah,
how they want it to look.
right.
And his friends had just kind of said, oh well, he works a lot, and so he never puts his phone down, and this, that, and and like in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, to me that means he's hardworking, right?
Yeah,
Right. And I
right,
mean, like, we haven't
right.
seen him walking around with his phone in his hand in these 3 episodes leading up to the wedding. So I don't know about that. But she took what his friend said and like multiplied it times 10. And I'm like, she wouldn't even go to the hotel room with him that night. And like, what I don't understand about some of the people on the show who, with some of those decisions, like, there's some people that choose not to kiss the bride, kiss the husband
Right,
whenever,
right.
they get married. And like, my thing is, if I'm standing in front of you, I decided to marry you at first sight. I can kiss you on the lips and it not
Yeah,
be a
nothing.
thing. You know what I mean?
Right,
I can, even if we sleep in separate beds in the hotel room, I can be
right,
in the hotel room with you. And I
right.
understand that there's a different dynamic of, she's a woman, and so maybe in that she felt some unsafe, some felt unsafe. Um, but yeah, like, I just don't see the issues there,
Right.
right? And maybe the producers behind the scenes are kind of playing up her feelings around not wanting to do that. But that night she totally like played him to the side and then
Yep.
wouldn't explain anything to him.
And he thought everything was okay.
He thought everything was
Poor
good.
guy.
Yeah.
Poor
Really
guy.
nice guy. Not perfect, you know what I mean? Could he have, he didn't have a perfect smile. He wasn't like chiseled like the rock. You know what I mean?
Right.
But he was a nice guy, and he definitely didn't deserve the treatment that he got
And then, you guys, it gets even worse. She
from her.
proceeds to go on the honeymoon with him.
Well,
And
she went on the honeymoon. I don't know if she went with with him.
well, okay, she's supposed to be with him, but even forced the producers to get her own room. Like, they did
Yeah.
not stay in the same room. And for me, I felt like they should have pulled, I know that they were looking for the drama, but how unreceptive she was to even really interacting with him. I'm like, she's just costing y'all more money
Yeah.
and more time. And so I know that they were like hoping that they could have some sort of coming to Jesus moment with each other, but she was just not interested at all. And like you said, I felt like, it's the same thing with Paige. Like, I felt like he was robbed of an experience
Hmm.
because of this person being so shallow.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker in all of this. Like, we all were like, Chris, because that was his name too. uh Kick her to the curb. And they get back to the States. They meet with their family and friends and stuff for one-on-ones. And she is mad because he is for defunding the police.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like something got mentioned to her from a friend, and they didn't put it in because where does she say, oh, I saw that he is for defunding the police. And she, like the average Anglo-Saxon American, doesn't understand what that term means.
Of course.
Defunding the police does not mean we're getting rid of the police department. It is us allocating those funds to other spaces like education, all this
Hmm.
to community resources. There's no way that we're not gonna get in there today on this Sunday. But he was also pro Black Lives Matter. Like, he was
Yeah.
for Black lives. So I feel like her being able to say, well, if we defund the police, like, and there's no police force, who's going to call you when you need a problem? Like when you have a problem. I'm like, yeah, that's not
Yeah.
what that means, sis. So maybe she's just racist and she
It's
realizes
giving racist.
it's giving racism. Okay,
It's giving Karen. You know what I'm
it,
saying?
it really
And what
is.
was crazy was Chris's best. I think his best friend is a cop,
Yeah,
and so obviously, like it's not that he's anti people that are police. You know what I mean? But he understands that there needs to be that reallocation of resources.
yeah,
He understands that black folks are treated differently in this country than white folks, but
yeah,
little Miss Alyssa in her cowboy boots and wedding dress wanted to marry the Marlboro man. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like that's who she wanted her man in tight Wranglers and a plaid shirt and cowboy hat, and that's not what she got.
That is not.
And I think she was honestly searching for any and every reason to
Yeah,
make it seem like he was not good for her and he was not a
exactly.
good person.
Yep.
Because I mean, we heard her say a million times, "I am a good person. I am not a bad," like, and I'm just like, girl, if you have to keep saying that, you know, every action that you are taking is not congruent with you saying you are a good person. You
Exactly.
are you're anti Black Lives Matter, right? Or at the least, you're all lives matter.
Hmm.
You are pro police. You are not treating this man with dignity. You are gaslighting him.
Hmm.
You shut him down whenever he tries to talk about you all's relationship and then turn around and say, "Well, we talked about that. Why you keep bringing it up?" You
Hmm.
walk away from him whenever he's trying to have regular civil conversations with you, and you escalate it and then blame him and say you feel unsafe.
Hmm.
Girl,
Hmm.
what?
But here's the other strange thing too is I just feel like I'm the type of person, but again, I also cannot expect me from everybody else. We learned that that is a core lesson this week in life from everybody. You
Yeah.
cannot expect you and how you will respond from everybody else. And I feel like the other lesson this week is that people are reactive. But here's the truth about a lot of things. I'm for people standing in your truth. Why was it hard for you to say, I am not attracted to Chris? There's nothing about him from his appearance that turns me on. This happened in season 1, by the way. I don't know. I went back and watched part of season 1. And that
Mhm.
woman, she married a guy and she ran off and cried.
Yeah, I remember.
And they are still together to this day.
Yeah.
They ended up, she worked through it. And so you didn't even try. You just saw what you saw and you fell into old habits and you didn't want him. And that's okay. Say that, but don't use every other excuse in the book. He's aggressive. I don't like this. Well, you never talked to him. So how do you even know?
How you even know?
So,
And to turn around and gaslight him
yes.
and constantly cut him off, not let him speak or express himself, and then when he gets agitated, call him aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why, yeah, he's agitated. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, yeah, he's annoyed, and maybe his voice did raise a little bit because he's tired of you of the way that you're treating him.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, it was just a all around bad situation. I knew that she was not going to be attracted to him based on some of the things that she was saying. I didn't know she was going to act like that. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to get that bad.
She was a toddler. It's a yeah. And so
Yes.
shout out to Chris for really getting fed up when they met with Pastor Cal and was like, hey, this is my decision day.
Yeah.
And I no longer want to be divorced. And the nerve of her to cry those crocodile tears and say, and hold on, I just want to let the listeners and viewers know. They move into an apartment together when they come back to the States. They used to have this version where you would pick whose ever house and you would go and live at their house.
Yeah.
But now I think that is a good thing for them to have a space where nobody is familiar and they have to get accustomed. She never intended on staying with him at the
Nope.
same time at that house. She was like, okay, you can take the first shift, I'll stay half the season, and then you stay the other half. No. Like he said, I'm moving in this house. We can do it together or not, but I'm moving in. And it's
Hmm.
no better. So I appreciate him for standing his ground on that, and ultimately telling Pastor Cal, I don't want this.
Well, and he gave her several chances to take it out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Several chances.
Several.
Several times he asked her, you know, if you were still even willing to give 1%, I'm here. I'm in this,
Yeah.
right? And she turned that and flipped that into, well, I was trying and he quit. And I'm just like, girl, are you serious? Like he gave you several chances to walk away from this with no hard feelings, right? And she
Mm-hmm.
never took any of those because she wanted to control the narrative
Yep.
and didn't want to look like the bad person who walked away from this. She wanted to just treat him so badly that
Yep.
he walked away so that then she could turn around and say, he's the one left the marriage, not me.
Yep. I I wish that unlike the other season, and I get it. I feel like COVID probably played a huge part in the past few seasons
Yeah.
where the couples were kind of really close to each other. I feel like this season they're not as interactive with each other because I
Hmm.
feel like if it were the other seasons, the other ladies and guys sort of spoke up on Chris's
Hmm.
behalf and really kind of looked out and checked Alyssa.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like everybody's kind of like, well, that don't have nothing to do with me and my shit that's going on over here.
Hmm.
Uh, but I felt like what's the girl, Jasmina? She talked to
Hmm.
Jasmina a lot, but I felt like Jasmina really should have said, do you really think that you're giving this all you got? And
Hmm.
I don't think that you are. I think that had somebody said that wasn't a part of production, maybe would have said something to her, maybe she would have realized, like, okay, so it's not just production saying this. These are other people that are in this experience, this process with me. And if they're seeing it, maybe I am doing something wrong. Maybe I really do need to kind
Hmm.
of push whatever I'm feeling aside and really try. So,
Yeah, I just wonder if she's self-aware enough to do that. You know
mm,
what I mean?
yeah,
And I don't know that she is. I mean, you bring up a good point about COVID. It's interesting because in the New Orleans season, which was 3 seasons ago, maybe,
yeah,
um, that's COVID hit like right in the middle of that season. And
right,
so, whereas normally they're married for 8 weeks before decision day, this time they were married for like almost 15 weeks or something like that before
right,
decision day because COVID put a pause on everything.
correct.
And it's interesting because in that sense, I think uh COVID allowed, like, there's one couple from that season, Miles and Karen, who
Hmm.
I think had COVID never happened, they would have divorced on decision day.
Oh, yeah.
But COVID hit and it, like, the cameras were gone and they were just allowed to be, and now they're still together, right?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting the different ways that COVID has affected the different seasons. I also think that the couples this season don't just kind of really vibe with they're very different types of people, and I don't
Yeah.
think they vibe with each other. I think what really threw a wrench in that was the argument that Lindsay had with Elijah Wan and Katina.
Yeah.
I think that threw a big wrench in everything. I really think everybody on there feels a way about Lindsay, right? Because she's just a lot. And so they don't really want to hang around each other because I genuinely think they just don't really rock with each other like that.
Yeah. Speaking of Lindsay, let's stay here with Lindsay and Mark the Shark.
Mock the shock.
Now, I knew that this was a setup going in because apparently Mark almost was cast in the last time that they were in Boston,
Hmm.
and they couldn't find a match for Mark. Red flag number one.
I
Um,
think they still didn't find a match for Mark.
Red flag number two, because Lindsay
Yeah.
told them that she was open to receiving and being matched with anybody.
Mm.
What she had been doing, I respect her for that, knowing that, hey, I'm doing something wrong. And I really wanted to root for Lindsay because of that. I was like, hey, she honest about her shit. She knows that she has not picked great men. Based on this, the criteria and the questions, I am open to whomever you guys match me with.
Mm.
But when I saw that when they matched her with him, I said that is going to be a problem because she is still going to have certain expectations. And this person is not going to fall in line because he was pretty much unmatchable. And here we are, mess. Day walking down drunk. Take her titties out in front of everybody, drunk. Like just drunk, felt drunk, loud, drunk. Just we knew that it was going to be a problem. And so Lindsay is this person, guys, that she is very aggressive. She's very loud and wrong. She is definitely
loud and wrong is a perfect description.
Yes, loud and wrong, and she is definitely a Karen as well. And she also gaslights Mark a lot.
But see, she the type of Karen that'll be like, she seemed like the type of Karen that like sleeps with black men, so don't think that she's racist.
But isn't that the epitome of a lot of Karens, though?
Oh, sure, of course.
I'm like, I feel like a lot of Karens would sleep with a black man to be able to say they took this black cock, excuse my language, and then cry wolf when he doesn't text her back the next morning.
Yeah.
He raped me.
Yeah.
You niggas gonna learn.
Yeah. Yeah, she is a whole handful. I knew in the beginning that he wasn't necessarily her type physically. I thought one mistake he made was shaving his beard off before the wedding because he looked like Boss Baby. Like
his skin was melting into his neck.
Yeah, like it just wasn't a good. And then he has big eyes and.
Or does he? Or is he that he's just like when he's trying to? I feel like he gets those because at first I thought he had a thyroid problem. I don't think it's that. I think that it's like when he is trying to get his point across, the only way that he can feel confident is to do that. And it's just like, you need to hear me and what I'm saying because what you're doing to me is wrong.
Yeah, and it's hard because she treats him like she's his mother.
Yes.
And he hasn't said those exact words, but he's expressed sentiments along the way that vibe with that, right?
Yeah.
She is one of those type of people that can railroad lighter personalities, right? And I think he has a lighter personality. He's not forceful in that way.
Right.
And so when the whole thing happened, he was renting from a friend of his, and apparently the friend got a hair up their butt while they were on their honeymoon and told him that he had to get out, right?
No. Let's be clear. He had bed bugs.
He had bed bugs too. He had bed bugs too.
That's what they said. And I feel like this landlord probably was attracted to him in some kind of way.
Agree.
Because at the rate that she was calling and texting and knowing that he was supposed to be on his honeymoon, I felt like I knew then he doesn't have the backbone that someone like Lindsay needs to shut it down, because he should have told the landlord, whoever, hey,
you got to relax.
You got to relax. I'm on my honeymoon. I can deal with this when I come back, but you need to stop calling, and that's it.
But I think that, like, in his own way, he was trying to fix the situation, and Lindsay just came in and was like, "Oh, you can move in with me. This is what we're gonna do." Yeah. And I think because Lindsay is volatile, he went along with it to keep the peace.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because there's been plenty of times when we see what happens when he disagrees with her, or when he pushes back on her. Like we saw what happened at the bowling alley, right? We saw what happened this past week when she was like grabbing his arm, trying to like kind of being condescending, and he was like, "Yo, please don't do that." And he didn't snap at her. He was just like, "Hey, can you you don't have to do that." And she was like, "Ugh, I give up. I quit." Right?
You never accountable. Mark never does anything wrong.
And so I think that he did a lot, especially in the beginning. I mean, and in the beginning, her volatility wasn't even necessarily directed at him, but he saw it. Yeah. So he saw what happened when they were leaving on their honeymoon, and she got into it with Elijah Wan and Katina, and he was like, "Oh, she's a little she's got a short fuse here, or we never really know what she's gonna say, right?
Right.
And in order to keep the peace, he has tried to just kind of go along to get along.
Yes.
And anytime you do that, after a while, you boil over and you're like, okay, I'm tired of that. Like I'm not
Right.
doing that anymore. And that's the stage that they're at now, where he's like, No." And I think that's why she feels like he's wishy-washy,
Okay. I think
because
yeah.
yeah, in the beginning he went along. He was like, okay, so yeah, she can say, yeah, well, when I suggested you move in with me, you were like okay with it, but now you're not. Well, yeah, I was trying to keep the peace.
Do you think that the first mistake that Mark made was sleeping with her? Now, I know that they didn't consummate their marriage. I don't believe it was the first night, but I believe they did have sex
On a
by the
honeymoon.
time they got to the honeymoon. And so I feel like from there, it's just been downhill. Not really. I'm gonna say he said he felt like it was a roller coaster. I really feel like they never have any moments where they're up. But I
Mm.
feel that do you think that like maybe that
Mm,
was a
I
mistake?
don't I I think it depends on how you define a mistake, right?
Okay.
Because there are times when folks get caught up in the good feelings and stuff happens, right? And
Yeah.
it's not to say, and it happens maybe before it should have, right? We just
Mhm.
got married. We're on this adrenaline high because I got married at first sight, right?
Right.
And now I'm on my honeymoon. I'm in this beautiful place with this woman who is open to sex with me, with a man who's open to sex with me, right? Um, we've been drinking because there's plenty of alcohol. So, we're adults. We chose to have sex. I think that the difference in this situation is that they are married now, right?
Right. Right.
And I think maybe sometimes couples go into it not realize, never having been in that situation before, being married at first sight.
Right.
And when you're dating and you meet somebody out at the club or whatever, y'all get drunk, you go and do whatever, right? And be adults. You don't necessarily have to even see that person again,
Right. Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what comes along with being married at first sight is we're still developing an emotional connection along the way. And so, yeah, further down the road, I may actually realize, I actually don't really like you like that, or I don't
Right.
like this thing about you, or maybe we shouldn't have done that. And I think maybe that's what happened.
Okay. Yeah, I think that like you said, I think they were on a high, but I just knew for me, I felt like that just changed the dynamic. And I get it, but I feel like in this case, I feel like people need to take their time because we're already doing
Hmm.
something that is unconventional, which is
Yeah,
being married at first sight. We're doing everything
right.
backwards, and now I'm dating you now that we got married.
After marriage, right?
Yeah, after marriage. And so I feel like sometimes, especially women, and not, and sometimes men. I'm gonna say men too, because y'all get of this rap that y'all not
Mhm.
emotional, but sometimes men tend to be just as emotional as women. And I think that everybody has cloudy judgment, whereas you have Katina and Olajuwon that have not consummated their marriage. At least that's what they're telling us.
Right.
And we're seeing all the issues that are coming into play with their marriage. Like you stated
Mhm.
earlier with Olajuwon, we knew that he was a playboy, that he was a mess, that he had never dated black women before, and they paired him with a beautiful black woman who seems to
Mhm.
kind of have her shit together, very attractive, but is just a victim of fuckboy mentality.
Mhm.
And she too went into this, hey, I'm doing something wrong. They can pair me with somebody. They paired her with Olajuwon, which I think was a huge mistake.
Mhm.
And you want to root for Olajuwon. You hope that he completely does a 180 on his behavior and his previous life. But we now are starting to see with Olajuwon that he's very toxic, misogynistic, uh,
Mhm.
petty. And I don't even know what else to say. But the episode before last week, you have him try to humiliate Katina in this weird way,
Mhm.
bringing up a situation that everybody at the table, including the viewers, until they say, oh, they'll do the one-on-one, that he saw a date nap on her phone.
And Katina didn't even know.
Katina didn't know. Did you log into the app to see if she was recently active? You did not. And why did that need to be brought up in front of all the other couples?
Yeah. Elijah Wan Elijah Wan talks a lot, and I think I think him talking a lot is him trying to not convince other people that he's a good person, that he is ready to be married, that he is all that. He's trying to convince himself because he has been a playboy for so long. He is saying the things that he thinks one is supposed to say when they are ready to be married, when they're a husband, when they're, he's saying the things he thinks he's supposed to expect of his wife and all of those things. And I think at his core, what he's really afraid of is one, reverting back to his old ways, but also getting with someone and being treated the way that maybe he used to be, right? And he knows Katina used to be a party girl. He is one of the worst kind of people to that's out there that ends up really destroying women's confidence. Because he has tried at every point to break down who she already was and build her up into this, build a wife of who he thinks of what he thinks he wants in a wife, right? He doesn't even necessarily know that he wants that, because and I think there's definitely a racial aspect to this, because he's never dated Black women before, right? His brother's married to a white woman, and what's interesting is, even there was one time when he was sitting there with his brother and his brother's wife, and they were talking about, like, well, what kind of things do you expect from your wife and expect from marriage? And he was listing off all of these things, and even his white brother's wife was sitting there like, nah, that ain't it. Right? And so I think that he's used to dating these white girls, who are it's a different dynamic than dating a Black woman, right? And he is trying to control who she is so much, into making her into who he thinks he wants her to be, instead of just letting her be who she is, which at its core would be enough for him, should be enough for him.
Yep. And I think the other issue too is that this girl has told you that I had been verbally abused in my previous relationships, and here you are breaking me down and saying all these terrible things to me. You're not talking to me, you are talking at me. And you think calling me lazy and saying all these things because, oh, I'm tired from hosting a party and I can get up in the morning and clean, makes me a terrible person. And I think my sister and I were talking about it, and we were saying how we felt like he was trying to test her. And this weird way. Yeah, it was this weird test, and it's just.
He said that on some occasions, like I did that because I was testing you to see, whoop blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, with the workout, with the workouts.
Yeah,
right?
with the workout. Yeah.
And I think that people like Elijah Wan, I'm gonna say something real outlandish and crazy. Black men like Elijah Wan are detrimental to the society of Black people, because they will coon and sell out and do all these things just because they think of it's similar to the situations that happened this week, where a lot of Black people feel like success is based on the proximity to whiteness. And like you said, he had never dated a Black woman before. He's going based off of his previous experiences. And a lot of Black men think that when they date other races, that there are certain things that don't come with. They always think that Black women talk back, or that we're sassy and we have all this going on, when it's just like, no, if you're holding me accountable and we're in this relationship together, why can't I extend that to you as well? Why can't I hold you accountable? Why can't I speak up when you do something wrong to me, or you say something wrong to me, or how come you didn't do this? That's nobody nagging you. I'm really trying to get down to the root of this, because if we're supposed to be partners and trying to work and build something together, this is a partnership. And a lot of people don't think about relationships like that. It's a partnership, it's a business.
Yeah.
And I think once we really start to realize that, people will look at relationships differently and really take their time and pick their partners.
Well, I think that too. In addition to that, one of the things that stands out to me about him, he is habitually and always talking about what a wife should be,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm like, if you have never, marriage is one of those things like parenthood, like a bunch of things that like unless you have experienced it, you actually don't know,
You don't know.
right? And you can speculate all you want, and some of that speculation may be correct, right? But you actually don't know. And so if you've never
Right.
been married before, you actually don't have an idea of what a wife is and should be, right? On top of that, everybody's marriage is different. And so I can say what I think a wife is and should be, and it may sound totally different from another man describing what his wife is and should be, right? Because every single marriage is different. Your marriage is what you make it. Yeah, there's all these traditional norms, there's all these gender norms and all of that stuff, and you can assign that to the title wife and the title husband, but it's not a mandatory rule that those things fall under that. So who are you to say to continuously say you are not acting like a wife should?
Right.
You are not acting like maybe I would like my wife to act. But who's to say that what you're saying isn't worthy of the title wife, right?
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's how seems like she's receiving that, because she's saying like, you constantly make me feel like I'm not good enough. And I think what she's saying is not good enough to as a person in general, but also not good enough to be your wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That is definitely true. I wonder what his I might have missed how the dynamic was in his household as well, because a lot of times people don't realize what they view and what they see is particularly when it's weird when it comes to like moms or whatever. So I wonder what that household
mhm,
dynamic was growing up. If they had
yeah,
a two
that's a
parent
good question.
household, if his mom had men in and out, if she was just a single, mom. But I would hope that somebody would kind of ask that during maybe the reunion, or maybe
Mhm.
Tina might ask him that. But I don't think I think we talked about this. We saw Katina's light be
Damn.
dim. Like I felt like
Yeah.
Katina, I could see myself in Katina.
Mhm.
Bubbly, fun, outgoing. And then you see this person come in. Now this ain't my life. And you see her just become more
Yeah.
meek and timid. It's weird. So I don't think she would ever ask him that, but I would be interested to know. But I really wanted to like Olajuwon, but I'm not with it, and I feel like they might stay together after decision day, but they probably will break up afterwards.
Yeah, I think she's got to get to a point where she is fed up
Yeah,
and realizes that her light has dimmed and she is no longer who she actually is,
right,
right? She's lost herself in this marriage and become who he wanted her to be and not who she actually is.
correct.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of bubbly and light, I want to shift to Noi and Steve. Uh, Noi is also very bubbly, personality. She likes to cosplay, I think.
Yeah, she does the whole noisy thing
Yeah,
when she's a
and
party girl.
yeah, she's also a party girl, and they pair her with Steve, who was a sales engineer or something. He worked in
Mhm.
sales at an engineering company, and now he has no job. He quit his job. He wanted to travel the world and create experiences, and has pretty much no desire to work and to be a stay-at-home husband slash father. What are your takes on Noi and Steve?
So the question I have had the whole season was finally answered last night, right?
Okay.
Or not last night, but last
Yeah,
episode.
the other episode.
So my initial thought was, if Steve was able to quit his job and travel for 6 months, Steve got money in the bank,
Yes.
right? And if the kind of job he was working, he was probably making money hand over fist, right? And so if he was able to quit his job and go do that, Steve had some money in the bank, right? Now, what ended up coming out Thursday, or last episode, he said, I have plenty of savings. I have been paying 3 to 4 more 3 to 4 more times what Noi is paying on the bills. So all of that is to say that, like, it's not like Steve is a bum, right? He's not sitting at home broke living off of Noi. That's not what's happening. That's the way she's treating him.
So, which leads me here, like I said, on the application, it says that you have to have some form of employment. And this is what I have been explaining to people. Steve had to be able to show that he had something in order for them to say, okay, you know what, we're going to
cool
forward with this process.
Right.
I think the issue that comes to head is he has not articulated properly to Noi. I don't know if he has not shown her his savings, how she is treating him in the conversation that you need to get a job, which his parents also told him that it's going to be a problem for you. You need to be able to reassure your partner. I think they have a huge communication problem. All these couples have communication problems.
Yeah.
And he needs to be able to sit Noi down and say, look, this is my savings. I've also been contributing this much, and it's not to go tit for tat and I do this more than you and blah, 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 blah. But we're good. Ultimately, if this depletes, I can get a job, no problem. I know my industry, it won't be a problem for me. But here is what I have saved. And so now, do you want to have what do you have saved? So this is how we can make this work together. I'm happiest when I don't know what it is. Like, he might like to read. He might like to write. I don't know, outside of traveling. But if this is going to be a problem for you, which it seems to be, because I don't have a job, we can either figure it out or we can end this right here.
Yeah, but like there's a lot that has been said that I think people miss between them too. So right now he handles all of the housework and chores. Right. He said, okay, I can continue, and now that we know more context, I'm going to add to what he said in that moment. He said, I can continue to do all of the housework, all of the chores, all of the cooking.
If you take care
and
of it.
I'm gonna add and paying 3 to 4 more times what you pay in bills, right? Or I can go get a job and you can pick up some of the chores. And her response was, no, I think you can keep doing the chores too. So what I think, and one of the things that I was in conversation with someone else about this the other day, she wants to be a kept woman, is what it is. That is what it is. And because I actually don't think it's about the amount of money he brings to the table. He could be filthy rich. It's not about that. It's about, I think that she grew up watching her dad go and leave and go to work and then come back home with that money. It's about him not having a job, right? And I don't think that she sees the other contributions to the household as equal to holding down a job and bringing in that money, because essentially right now he's taking care of you.
But I think also it's like the roles are reversed, because women consistently talk about how being a stay-at-home mom is like the amount of income, if it did bring in income, it would be something like ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
I think Noi, a lot of people have, like we said, this misconstrued notion of what a marriage entails, and like just even the basics. Because for her, I was offended when she said F you to him about when he was cleaning up the dishes after he cooked breakfast or whatever. And he kind of had to kind of strong hand her to help him make breakfast, after We just took your dog to get groomed, cleaned. I bought him a hoodie. I did this and that for
I am
your
making effort.
and you coming home, and now you want me to do all of this other stuff for you, and then to use that. And I know she was joking, but I didn't think that was a funny joke.
Yeah, I didn't either. Because when she said it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Is this another instance like the whole thing with the cooking of the noodles?
Mm-hmm.
Or, what's going on here? And then they kind of like worked over it, and
Yeah,
I was like, okay, it's not gonna be one of those blow ups, but that was a lot, bro.
that was a
Like,
lot.
and then
And
for her to go and meet with her friend and characterize him basically as like a lazy bum
um,
is wild to me. Like that's very disrespectful of like who he is, because he actually at his core, he seems like the best guy on the show,
he really does. He
right?
really
He got
does.
his stuff together. He got money in the bank. He knows what his field is, and he said he has no problem going back and getting a job should that, be necessary. But that ain't necessary right now. And if I got the money
Right.
to quit and figure out who I am and what my dreams are and all of that stuff, well, yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And she just doesn't understand that.
Yeah, I think the other strange thing too is when you see the cameras that are in the house, that she is saying that she, after the show is over, she isn't interested in sharing a space with him.
Hmm.
She wants to get her own apartment and or go back to her apartment, or however. And I'm with Steve. Like, okay, so what are we doing? Like, what is happening?
Hmm.
We're already married. We're
We've
already
been living together.
together. And now you want to go and you already got married at first sight. So what's the issue? And you're talking about being comfortable, but we shared this space together, and this has
Right.
never come up until today. So
You've been
I
real
don't know.
comfortable with me doing all the cleaning up and everything around here.
Yep. And so I think I think a lot of people were hoping, we were rooting for them, but I
Yeah.
don't see it for them. I don't.
I don't either. Each week it gets less and less that I see it for them. In the
Yeah.
beginning, we was like, oh, they're the chosen ones. Like
Yeah.
they
I mean,
they good.
yeah. And now I'm just like,
Yeah. I
but
mean, like that is wild to me. What doesn't make sense to me about that is us living together. You want me to pay all the bills and do all the housework and cleaning, right? You realize if you move into your own place,
I'm not
you
paying for
pay.
it.
I ain't paying that, right?
I'm
I'm
not
not
paying
coming
that.
over to your house to clean up. I'm
No.
not doing any of that. So it didn't even make sense to me. And so I'm with Steve in that. Like he was just like, I really don't understand where this is coming from. I don't get
Right.
what you're trying to do here.
Nope, not at all. But speaking of that, and tough couples and things taking a turn, we have Jasmina and Michael, our
Yeah.
last couple.
Yeah.
And they kind of got off, we to a rocky start. The wedding was really great. Very, very, this might be a beautiful thing.
Hmm.
And then immediately on the honeymoon, it just rocks,
Yeah.
Titanic, like icebergs. Like, it was a sinking ship. And I I don't know if you're seeing what I'm saying, but I feel that both of them have big egos. But I feel like Michael had not been getting enough credit for really trying to work through their problems. Whereas Jasmina is like, well, that already happened, so it's a non-factor anymore.
Hmm.
And he's like, well, this keeps happening, whether it be about
Right.
a certain situation, the same problems keep arising. Let's stay here and let's try to figure out what is the root of our issue. Like, why are we not meshing well? And she isn't interested. He gets met with eye rolls. Um, you're talking at me. You're talking to me like I'm a child. You're disrespectful. Kind of similar to how Alyssa was saying Chris was
Hmm.
to her. When we are clearly seeing that is not the case here. What is your take on Jasmina and Michael?
I think that initially, before they even met, my thoughts were that she wasn't going to be attracted to him,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Not that she would think he's ugly or anything like that, just that he's not her type, right?
Okay. Okay.
And I think that that is probably the point that I feel like that's the point that they've come back to now, right? So in
Mm,
the beginning, they had their wedding and beautiful wedding. They got along well. They were kind of flirtatious with each other and all that. And I remember wondering, like, okay, I wonder if this is like actual, attraction, or if this is we're caught up in this moment and we're, doing what we trying to make it work, right?
right.
And then they just couldn't get out of each other's way, right? Like repeatedly, they just kept doing this. I try not to put more blame on her than him, because I also understand that like the cameras don't show everything. But I remember
Hmm.
the first time she characterized him as aggressive, and you know, I'm always hesitant to not believe a woman when she says a man is aggressive, right? If that's how
Hmm.
you say you experienced it, that's how you say you experienced it.
Right.
Um, he doesn't present that way any other time. And I understand the way even abusers work, right? There's often times when they don't present that way other times. But I'm looking at like the other data. He was raised by his mother and his grandmother.
Right.
He
That's
um
really sisters.
he has 3 sisters, right? So he was raised around all Black women. He tends to come across with such a calm demeanor. Now, is there times that he maybe can say something and it come across condescending or something like that? Sure, right? Um, I think as the show went on, there were other times where it seemed like Jasmina was the one who was instigating or throwing kerosene on the situation. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking about like the time after they met with the experts and they suggested something about them like journaling down stuff. And he was like, well, yeah, like let's try giving that a try, right? It seems like every time we try and just talk through things, we end up in an argument. So how about we try writing stuff down so that we can't interrupt each other, which is an issue that we have, so on and so forth. And she jumped all over him
And got up and left,
and got up
walked
and
out
left.
as he was speaking.
And I'm like, he's literally trying to fix your marriage, right? Like and for her to be like, well, I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Like
Very.
literally cutting him off in the moment to say, I don't need to do that when he's proposing a solution to keep each other from cutting each other off, right? Like I was just like, what are y'all doing? And it seems like now they've come around to a point where their communication maybe has gotten better. And but it seemed like they're friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe
Yeah.
they are better off as friends. I don't
Yeah.
know. She's even voiced and said, like, my body doesn't have a reaction when he touches me. Like I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't change, then that's a wrap on that.
Yeah. And I think them too, she was saying that she could probably see it getting there,
Hmm.
potentially, but like you said, I feel like everything that's happening now, we got 3 weeks left. I
Yeah.
don't know if, and not saying, like I said, like what has happened when the main cameras are not around, but I don't know. I don't see it for them either. And I feel like it- Michael should have been matched with Katina. I
I remember thinking that early too.
Yeah, I think that, and not to be funny, I felt like Mark could have been also matched with Alyssa. And just because he was more he's not a bad looking guy. He had nice teeth, and
Hmm.
how his personality was, I felt like he might have been better matched with Alyssa. That
Hmm.
happened the other season with Chris and Paige. It was another couple. I felt like Virginia probably should have been matched with that weird guy, and the girl that was married to the guy stuck in the 80s should have been matched with the pilot.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
and I know they said that swapping couples is like a thing on the Australia show.
Well, I
What?
mean, you saw last season after the
Yeah.
season was over, and Zach and Bao, and you know what I mean, and what's the woman who married Gil?
Oh yeah.
Um,
Woo! What was her
and
name?
what was
Yeah.
her name? And her and old dude that
Johnny
Johnny,
and
yeah.
yeah.
So like, yeah, and that tea came out before the season was over.
Yep. And poor
So
Gil was just heartbroken because he really liked her.
yeah, he
And
really tried.
he really did try. But people are not honest, but like you saw his account. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like he was broke either. He's just be sending money home to his mama.
Well, I mean, apparently he made more than she do. That's what ended up coming out on the reunion, was that he made more than she do.
Look, and so like he said, your spending habits make me nervous. But if she charges, and like I said, like if I know, for me, I do like to shop a certain way. Now I don't do it as much because one, I don't get that discount anymore. But I don't want, if I did decide that I wanted to get a pair of shoes that was $1,000, I don't want that to be an issue. And so those are conversations that you have early on. Now she was wrong. They should have broke up on decision day.
Yeah.
She played him and played everybody else. I just knew her ass was gonna say no. And she played him, and he said he got blindsided like a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
So I think the issue with a lot of these couples are, and sometimes dating in general, is like a lot of people are afraid to have those tough conversations. You know, because you're afraid of how this person will respond. And I remember dating a guy out here, and I was in my late 20s, and he was like in his early 40s, but he didn't want to have kids. You're already in your 40s. You're not changing your mind on that. You love your niece and nephew. And he really liked me, and I really liked him. I didn't take him seriously.
Yeah.
And then he tried to date me again after that. And I was like, he was like, you break my heart. He was Portuguese. He said, you break my heart 2 times. I said, you didn't want kids. Now, the second time, that's a you problem. That don't have nothing to do with me. I told you I at least wanted a kid. You said no. So I'm not going to waste my time and yours when I know ultimately that's something that I want. I had to walk away from the situation. And so I felt like if people were more open and honest about what it was they truly wanted and desired, a lot of people wouldn't be in the situations that they're in.
That's facts. That's facts. I mean, I think that Married at First Sight complicates that a little bit just because of the whole process is like compacted. But yeah, I mean, you have to be brave and speak up and advocate for yourself and the things that you want out of your life, out of marriage. And I think that the older you get, the more rigid you maybe get with those boundaries.
Yep.
Because I mean, like, you know, in the situation that you just gave, if you hadn't have, you may end up in your 40s and he in his 60s, and you still want children. But at that point, it's, you know, it's much more difficult to have children, and you've wasted, you know, X amount of years of your life with someone who didn't want the same things that you wanted, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that I agree that if people were more communicative about like, these are the things that I want, and if they accepted that it's often a waste of time to try and convince other people to want what you want, then yeah, we'd be a much more happier people. So
yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and taking a moment to chat with me. I'm very honored to have this Nobel Peace Prize winner here on Whiskey Soured. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media, and we're gonna have to do a recap at the end of the season because we have
I'm down.
about 3 or 4 episodes left, because you know they're gonna drag those 3 weeks out.
Oh yeah, you know, I'm always here for the reunion show because that's when like the real TV coming out. So
I want to interview Kevin Frazier so bad. I want to interview him about this. I was like, I don't want to talk about entertainment tonight. Yes, though, I want to work there. Yeah. I'm gonna hit up his wife and see. I'm like, well, do you think your husband would interview on my podcast about Married at First Sight. Because
Hey,
he
listen,
like us.
listen. The most he can say is no. That's what I grew up. My mom always saying, "You might as well go ahead." The most they can say is no.
You're right. We're gonna figure it out because if we can get him, we definitely we gonna sort
Yeah,
it out. I'm like, all right, we got this
right.
time. And Kevin Frederick gonna show up because this is some mess, and he
Yeah,
feels he asks the questions that we would like to ask them. So I
yeah.
appreciate him being real.
I agree.
Um,
I agree.
but yes, tell everybody
But
where to find you.
yeah, you can. All my social is Kid Noble on Twitter, on Instagram. My Facebook, you're not gonna find me. Even though me and you are Facebook friends, my
Yes,
Facebook I keep a little more locked down.
same.
And website bepureblack.com is where you can find me.
And y'all also can buy this shirt too from.
Cop the shirt. I sell prints of my work, of my photography. So, hit me up about a print. Hire me. Tell all your friends.
Yes, tell a friend to tell a friend because the image. Listen, all I know, they're dope. They're dope. I am honored to be a part of your portfolio now.
We're
And
gonna, like I said, we're gonna run that back. We're gonna
no,
like
no,
set aside like some studio time
that's
and
what I'm about to say.
like
Like, we're gonna get a studio
yeah.
and lay that out.
Yeah, we're gonna run it back.
Yes. Thank y'all for tuning in this week. I know to subscribe, like, and share the podcast. Share with your friends. Y'all was running up the episode where I talked about like Astro World, but y'all run this one up. Run this up. Run up the episode where I interview my ex-boyfriend, all of that. Like, I get messy sometimes. Not all the
I'm gonna
time.
have to go back and check that one out.
Listen,
I
here
saw the
was like
clip.
my
I saw
butt
the clip.
cheeks was so clenched because you was. I'm like, hey. I ain't here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. So that is my job to share, my light with the world and turn up while it's happening. So
I love it.
Being, socially ratchetly responsible. That's the best way I can describe it. But yeah, y'all subscribe, like, and share. Cop a candle or two at saint-angelus.com/candles. And that's all I got for y'all this week. Patreon coming soon. I've been filming a whole bunch of content for that to build that out as well. And yeah, I'll let y'all know when that drops, and I will see y'all back here next week.